Hello everyone, welcome back to Elite Tales. Here we discover the emotional and captivating stories about Elon Musk. In this video, we will capture the heartwarming moments of famous entrepreneur. Before we begin, I request you that please subscribe our channel for more interesting videos. It was Christmas Eve, and the snow fell steadily outside, blanketing the world in a silent, icy glow. Inside an old, dilapidated house on the outskirts of a small town, the cold seeped through every crack and crevice. The wind howled, rattling the loose window panes as if mocking the little family who huddled together for warmth. The Smith family, James, Sarah, and their 9-year-old daughter Lily, had fallen on hard times. James, once a carpenter, had been out of work for months. Sarah, ever hopeful, tried to make ends meet by taking on sewing projects, but it wasn't enough. Their house was more of a shack now, with peeling paint and a leaking roof, its age showing in every creak and groan of the wooden beams. The only warmth came from a small, flickering fire in the hearth, fueled by the last pieces of wood they could scavenge. Lily sat cross-legged on the worn-out rug in the middle of the living room. She hugged an old stuffed bear close to her chest, its fur matted and its seams barely holding together. Her big, teary eyes stared at the faint glow of the fire, her cheeks flushed from the cold. "Why is it always us, Mama?" she asked softly, her voice trembling as much from sadness as from the chill in the air. "Why can't we have a happy Christmas like other kids?" Sarah knelt beside her, pulling her daughter into a warm embrace. "Oh, sweetheart," she whispered, her voice heavy with emotion. "I know it's hard, but we have each other, and that's what matters most." "But they have lights and trees and presents," Lily replied, her tears spilling over. "I just wanted to have a Christmas like in the stories." James turned away, his heart breaking at his daughter's words. He had always been the strong one, but seeing his little girl so sad was almost too much to bear. He silently vowed to do whatever it took to make things better, but the weight of their reality was crushing. The night grew colder, and the little family shared a modest meal of bread and soup. They had saved it for this special night, hoping to create even the faintest semblance of Christmas cheer. Lily tried to smile for her parents, but the disappointment lingered in her eyes. Just as they were preparing to turn in for the night, a knock echoed through the small house. James exchanged a puzzled glance with Sarah. Who could possibly be out in such weather? Cautiously, he opened the door. Standing there, illuminated by the soft glow of the street lamp, was a man in a long coat. His breath formed small clouds in the freezing air, and his eyes sparkled with kindness. Behind him, a sleek car was parked, its headlights cutting through the snowy darkness. "Good evening," the man said, his voice warm and reassuring. "I hope I'm not disturbing you." James furrowed his brow, unsure of what to make of the visitor. "Can I help you?" he asked. The man smiled and stepped closer. "I heard about your family," he said gently, "and I thought I'd stop by to see if I could make your Christmas a little brighter." Before James could respond, several other people appeared behind the man, carrying boxes wrapped in festive paper. They began unloading items from the car, blankets, food, decorations, and even a small Christmas tree. Sarah gasped, her hand flying to her mouth. "Who are you?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. The man chuckled softly. "My name is Elon," he said, his modest introduction belying the magnitude of his fame. "Elon Musk. I heard about your situation and I couldn't stand the thought of you spending Christmas like this." James stood frozen in the doorway, his mind struggling to process the magnitude of the moment. The name Elon Musk carried an almost mythical weight, but it wasn't the fame or wealth that struck him. It was the genuine warmth in Elon's voice, the compassion that shone in his eyes, despite the bitter cold swirling around them. "Please, come in," James said at last, his voice shaky. "It's freezing out there." Elon stepped inside, bringing with him a rush of cold air and the promise of something extraordinary. Behind him, his team followed, carrying brightly wrapped presents, boxes of food, and supplies. Their arms were laden with warmth and joy, the kind of treasures James and Sarah could only dream of giving to their daughter. Lily peeked out from behind her mother, clutching her stuffed bear tightly. Her eyes were wide, filled with a mixture of curiosity and awe. She tugged at Sarah's sleeve. "Who is he, Mama?" she whispered, her voice barely audible. Sarah knelt beside her, brushing a strand of hair from Lily's face. "He's someone very kind, sweetheart. Someone who's come to make this Christmas special for us." As the visitors moved inside, the old, drafty house began to transform. String lights were carefully draped along the walls, casting a warm glow that softened the room's worn edges. The small Christmas tree was set up in a corner, its ornaments catching the light and creating a magical sparkle that seemed to fill the space. Blankets and coats were laid out, and soon the chill in the air began to fade, replaced by a comforting warmth. Elon watched quietly as Lily's face lit up with each new addition to the room. Her laughter was infectious as she helped hang ornaments on the tree. For the first time in what felt like forever, the Smith house was alive with the sounds of joy and hope. "Do you like it, Lily?" Elon asked, kneeling beside her as she placed a star at the top of the tree. She turned to him, her eyes brimming with tears. "It's beautiful," she said, her voice trembling with emotion. "Thank you. It's like a dream." Elon smiled and patted her shoulder gently. "Sometimes dreams come true, especially for those who believe in them." As the evening unfolded, a sumptuous feast was laid out on the small wooden table. Plates of roasted vegetables, steaming casseroles, and a perfectly golden turkey replaced the modest bowl of soup that had been their Christmas meal just hours before. Elon's team worked seamlessly, ensuring that every detail was perfect. James and Sarah couldn't hide their tears as they watched Lily enjoy her first real Christmas dinner. She giggled as she tried a slice of pie, her cheeks flushed with happiness. For the first time in months, James felt the weight on his shoulders lighten. "Mr. Musk," James began hesitantly, his voice thick with gratitude. "I don't know how to thank you for this. We've been struggling for so long. You've given us more than we could have ever hoped for." Elon placed a hand on James's shoulder, his expression sincere. "You don't need to thank me. No family should have to endure what you have. Christmas is about togetherness and hope. I just wanted to remind you of that." As the night wore on, Elon sat with the family by the fire, listening to their stories and sharing some of his own. He told Lily about his own childhood dreams and how he believed that even the smallest acts of kindness could change lives. As the night wore on, Elon sat with the family by the fire, listening to their stories and sharing some of his own. He told Lily about his own childhood dreams and how he believed that even the smallest acts of kindness could change lives. His voice was calm and steady, and the flickering firelight danced on his face, making him appear almost timeless. "I wasn't always successful, you know," Elon said, his eyes thoughtful as he stared into the flames. "I came from humble beginnings, and there were many times I felt like giving up. But my parents always told me to keep pushing forward, no matter how hard things got. And when you take a step forward, you'll often find someone or something that helps you make it through." Lily, her eyes wide, leaned in closer, hanging on every word. "Did you ever want to give up, Mr. Musk?" she asked, her voice soft. Elon smiled, a knowing glint in his eyes. "Oh, many times. But the key is to find a reason to keep going. You see, it wasn't the big things that helped me the most. It was the small acts of kindness along the way that kept me going. A mentor who took a moment to listen, a friend who helped me when I was down, or even a stranger who smiled when I was feeling my lowest." He looked at Lily, his gaze kind and warm. "Sometimes it's those small moments that change everything." Lily thought for a moment. her little face scrunched in concentration. I think you're right. My mama always says that we should help others, even when we don't have much. That's how we stay happy." Sarah, who had been quietly listening from her chair, smiled at her daughter. "That's exactly right, sweetie. We may not have a lot, but we have love. And that's the most important thing." Elon nodded, his eyes shifting to Sarah. "Your daughter is wise beyond her years," he said with genuine admiration. "She understands something that many adults don't." The family sat in companionable silence for a moment, the crackling fire the only sound filling the room. For the first time in what seemed like forever, there was peace in the Smith house, a peace that came not from material things, but from something far more meaningful: connection, understanding, and love. After a few moments, Elon stood up and stretched. "I have one more surprise for you," he said, his voice filled with excitement. Lily's eyes brightened. "Another surprise?" she asked, barely able to contain her enthusiasm. Elon smiled. "Yes? Follow me." He led them outside where the snow had fallen heavier now, blanketing everything in a soft, glistening white. The air was still, the world hushed under the weight of Christmas night. And then, through the stillness, a distant sound could be heard: the roar of a car engine, growing louder with each passing second. Lily's eyes grew wide as she stared out into the darkness. "What's that?" she asked, her voice filled with wonder. Suddenly, the headlights of a sleek black car pierced the night, and Elon gestured for them to come closer. "Don't worry. This is all part of the surprise." The car pulled up to the driveway, its engine humming quietly as it came to a stop. The door opened, and a man stepped out. He was tall, dressed in a sharp suit, and he held something large wrapped in glittering paper. His face was warm and friendly as he approached the family. "Merry Christmas, everyone!" the man called out, his voice bright. "Mr. Musk told me you needed a little extra holiday cheer." Lily gasped. "Is that for us?" Elon nodded. "Yes, it is. This is just one more gift to make your Christmas special." The man handed the package to James, who carefully unwrapped it. Inside, to his astonishment, was a brand new, gleaming bicycle, perfectly sized for Lily. It had a bright red frame and a shiny silver bell. Lily's eyes filled with tears as she ran her hand over the handlebars. Is this for me?" she asked, her voice choked with emotion. Elon crouched down to her level. "It is," he said softly. "I know it's something small, but I wanted you to have a way to ride around and feel free, just like I did when I was a kid. A bike is a way to escape, to explore, and to find joy in the world, even when things are tough." Lily hugged the bike to her chest, the tears now streaming down her face. "Thank you, Mr. Musk. Thank you so much." Elon's heart swelled at the sight of her joy. "You're welcome, Lily. You deserve it." As the night deepened and the snow continued to fall gently from the sky, Elon turned to the family. "I think it's time for me to go now. But remember, you are never alone. You have each other, and you have a whole world of people who care about you." James and Sarah both stood, their gratitude so overwhelming they could barely speak. James cleared his throat and said, "We don't know what to say. You've given us more than we could ever repay. You've given us a chance to start over, a chance to hope again." Elon smiled. "You don't need to repay anything. Just take care of each other and remember this night. It's about the little moments, the small things that matter. And tonight, we made a little moment of magic." Elon's words echoed in the quiet of the night, their weight settling into the hearts of the Smith family like a comforting embrace. They watched as the sleek black car disappeared into the snowy distance, the headlights fading to a distant glow until it was no longer visible. The world around them seemed quieter now, softer somehow, as if the events of the evening had made everything feel just a little bit more magical. James held Sarah close, his arms wrapped around her as they stood on the porch, gazing at the snow-covered yard. They had never seen the world quite like this before. Everything looked more peaceful, more full of promise. And though their home was small, with peeling paint and a roof that leaks when it rained, it suddenly felt like the richest place on earth. Lily stood in front of her bike, still holding it tight, her face aglow with happiness and disbelief. She had always dreamed of having a bike, of being like the other kids in the neighborhood who zipped down the streets, laughing as they raced each other. But now, thanks to the kindness of a stranger, someone she never could have imagined would walk into their lives, she had that dream in her hands. As the family stood there in the crisp winter air, a sense of peace settled over them. It wasn't the peace of a perfect life, but the peace that comes with knowing that, in this moment, everything was as it should be. They had each other, they had their love, and they had something far more important: hope. Lily spoke first, breaking the silence. Her voice was soft, almost as if she were afraid to disturb the magic of the night. Do you think he's really gone?" she asked, her wide eyes searching the horizon for any sign of Elon's car. James chuckled and kneeled down beside her. "I'm sure he's gone, sweetie," he said, brushing a strand of hair from her face. "But don't worry. He's someone special. I don't think we'll ever forget tonight." Sarah stepped forward, her eyes still misty with emotion. "We'll never forget," she whispered. "This will be a Christmas we'll carry in our hearts forever." Lily hugged her bike again, her heart overflowing with gratitude. She looked up at her parents, her face shining with happiness. "I'm going to ride it every day," she said. "I'm going to be the fastest kid in the whole neighborhood." James laughed, his voice full of love. "I don't doubt that for a second, sweetheart." As they stood there, surrounded by the soft snow and the warmth of their love, the world outside seemed to change. The cold didn't feel so harsh anymore. The hardships of the past, the struggles they had faced as a family, all seemed distant now. For the first time in what felt like a lifetime, they could see a future filled with hope. Inside the house, the warmth of the fire crackled in the fireplace, casting dancing shadows on the walls. The little home, despite its modesty, felt more like a castle to them now. They had always made do with what they had, but tonight they had something more precious than anything material could ever provide. They had each other. They had love. And that, they knew, was the greatest gift of all. Later that night, as the family sat together at the dinner table, their plates filled with a humble but hearty meal, they talked about the future. They didn't know what it held, but for the first time in a long time, they felt as though they could face it together, no matter what. "We'll get through anything as long as we stick together," Sarah said, her voice steady and strong. "And now, we've got a bike to remind us that there's always something to look forward to." Lily beamed at her mother, her eyes shining with excitement. "I'm going to learn how to ride it right away," she said, her hands clutching the fork tightly as she spoke. "I'll be the best rider ever." James smiled, his heart swelling with pride. "You'll be the fastest, that's for sure." As they ate, the fire flickering gently beside them, they spoke more about their dreams for the future. They talked about getting out of debt, about the possibility of moving into a better house one day. They talked about Lily's hopes for the future, about how she wanted to help people when she grew up, just like Elon Musk had helped them. There was a sense of possibility now, a sense that no matter how difficult things had been in the past, they could overcome anything. And as they finished their meal and sat back, content and at peace, the quiet joy of the evening enveloped them. For Lily, the little girl who had cried herself to sleep many nights, this was the moment she had longed for. The magic of Christmas wasn't in the presents or the decorations. It wasn't in the lights or the carols. The magic of Christmas was in the people around her, the ones who loved her and who would always be there for her no matter what. The world outside continued to drift in a blanket of snow, but inside the Smith family's home, there was a warmth that would last long after the fire had burned out. A warmth that wasn't just from the heat of the flames, but from the love that filled the room, from the kindness of a stranger, and from the knowledge that they were never truly alone. As Lily lay in bed that night, the soft glow of the Christmas lights casting a gentle light across her face, she whispered a prayer. It wasn't for more presents or for more things. It was a simple prayer of thanks, a prayer for the love of her family, for the kindness of strangers, and for the hope that tomorrow would be better than today. "Thank you, God," she whispered, her voice barely audible. "Thank you for this Christmas, and thank you for sending Mr. Musk to us." And as the night fell into quiet stillness, the Smith family drifted off to sleep, each of them holding tight to the memory of a Christmas that would forever change their lives. The next morning, the family woke to the sounds of laughter and the fresh, crisp air of Christmas Day. The snow outside had settled into a peaceful blanket over the earth, and the world seemed new, as if it had been reborn. The sun rose over the horizon, casting its first light on a new day, a day filled with endless possibilities, filled with hope, and filled with love. Elon Musk may have left their home, but the impact of his kindness lingered long after he was gone. The Smith family had received not just gifts, but a reminder that in the darkest of times, there is always light. They had learned that the true spirit of Christmas isn't found in what we receive, but in what we give, and in the way we make the world a better place for others. And for Lily, that Christmas would be the first of many filled with hope, kindness, and the knowledge that even the smallest acts of generosity can change the world. In the end, what started as a quiet, cold night turned into a Christmas miracle that no one could have predicted. Elon Musk's surprise act of kindness reminded this family, and all of us, that sometimes the greatest gifts aren't found under a tree, but in the love and compassion we share with others. As the family's Christmas was forever changed, their hearts were filled with hope for the future, knowing that kindness can truly transform lives. If this story touched you, don't forget to like the video, share it with your friends, and subscribe for more heartwarming stories. Let's spread the message that no matter how tough things get, a little bit of kindness can light up even the darkest days. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.